All right. Hey, everybody. We are going to dive into this book, Successful Women Think Differently with Valerie Burton. So it just makes me so much more excited to hear from her at convention. It's not going to be enough, but that's why I'm so glad we're reading this book. And it's so fun that we get to at least dive into this first section um, before we do get to hear her at convention. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you guys tonight. So, and I'm sitting here, reading and highlighting and taking notes. And I'm like, I don't even know how to summarize this. Because it's just so good and there's so much. But I love how she starts off with the story of the two women that grew up in the same way. And how does one become, successful and the other one not so much? And so I thought that was just a really great way to go into it. But she basically says successful women, they just think differently. They make different decisions. They set goals. Um, they bounce back from failure and adversity, tap into their strengths. They're teachable. They're teachable, right? But also those things are teachable. So if those are things, yes, optimistic, all of that. So there's just so many, and those are just tip of the iceberg. She names so many reasons or things that make people successful and women successful. Um, so I love that she goes over, okay, so we're gonna go over 9 habits through this book, right? The first one being tonight, believe you can do it, which is, oh man, near and dear to my heart. I love talking about this. And I just love too that she starts off with these 7 key decisions. And that, I hope you ladies started with the introduction and that you went to the decisions. I shouldn't say ladies. Is Eric on here? Because I really do believe this is everybody. But it's interesting how she talks through the book. Hey, boss, how she talks through the book about like that women are really different from men in some of these things. But I do think that guys can struggle with a lot of the same stuff too. So I don't want to like say that this is not something that guys can't work on too, so that's really important as well. But she does make some pretty blatant, like studied differences between men and women. And I can identify with some of that if I even just think about Kevin. But then I can think of, I know some of you I've talked to where you've shared things with your husbands that they struggle with. So I'm like, I really want to, I could feel like I can pass this book on to everybody. Doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. But I'm excited about these 9 habits. Something that she brings up is that these are proven to make us happier, healthier, and more resilient. Who doesn't want that? So I'm very excited to dive in. And what better way to dive into believing in yourself that you really can do this? And it's all about hope. It's all about hope. It's about being optimistic, having a growth mindset, and then taking notice of your thoughts and adjusting as needed. And that's just, you guys, it is hands down, that's what we have to do, so love that we're starting off with that. But I also love that she talks about spreading this and making sure that what you learn here is what you are also sharing with other people. So important. And I think we do that really well. I mean, that's what we're doing right here, but that's what we do on our social media. We share and we add value to people, and we don't just keep this stuff to yourselves. We teach this to our kids. We teach this to our spouses. I know for me, I have used so much of the things. I mean, these are concepts that we've heard in other places too, right? But I'm really excited how this is coming in this format. But I know I've shared with family members, siblings, other friends who are not part of Plexus that, just conversations. My CrossFit coach, actually, I'm just like, I'm going to have lunch with one of my CrossFit coaches tomorrow. And I am super excited, or after we work out, and she just poured her heart out to me about this specific stuff, about this today. I'm reading this going, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait to talk to Carly tomorrow, because this is the stuff that she's struggling with. And so just that optimism versus pessimism, just success and how to go about what do I want with my life? Where do I want to go from here? Just making decisions and struggling with past decisions and what to do walking forward. So just really, I love all of this. And then I didn't write it all down, but that key decisions box or like layout that she had, those 7 key decisions, I have not printed it out yet, but or typed it out or written it out, but I know I'm going to be hanging that up, taping it to my desk, putting it somewhere. And that right there is affirmations. That's an affirmation daily checklist for you to go through every single day, but also for you to just really memorize and go back to, because that's stuff that when you're struggling, those are the things that you need to be thinking through, is those 7 key decisions. So just really loved that. Just going into habit 1, believing you can do it. So excited about this. Again, like I said, optimism, growth mindset, and taking notice of your thoughts. I don't know. I can't get too far into it. I mean, I have like 2 full pages of notes here just talking about that. But, if we are staying optimistic about our thinking, obviously that's going to bring you more success. If you're pessimistic, you are going to have a fixed mindset and you're going to get stuck, and you're not going to want to grow, and you're not going to find that there's hope and possibilities. And that's just simply not true. And all of that has to do with how you talk to yourself. So those 3 things are just constantly interchangeable. All right. So if you can become optimistic, and because you can, and she says that many times, that this is all a choice. You can choose to change these things. And so that's super exciting too. You don't have to stay there, but what's really important is that you recognize that you need to change those thoughts, that you stop and you look and you think about, okay, what am I saying to myself right now? And she gives you some really great coaching and some questions to go through. So I hope you guys all did that or are going to do that. But those 3 things are interchangeable. If you can stop and get control of your thoughts, especially when you're in a negative place. And I know I share this a lot. I have like 2 conversations going on all the time in my mind. And not all the time, but a lot of times I do have to stop myself, even though I am a pretty optimistic person. Sometimes I can find myself in that place, but if I consciously stop myself and really think through what my thoughts are and my feelings are, then I can usually pull myself out of any kind of negativity or frustration. And I can think about, okay, this is something that can be handled differently or handled well, and I can work through this. But that's what it takes, is grabbing a hold of your thoughts and then switching them. Okay. And that not making excuses for the negativity, but making excuses for change and positivity and optimism. Okay. So, I'm so excited to hear what you guys have to say. But I'm going to stop right there, because I would rather spend more time visiting with you guys and hearing what your takeaways were and just really what struck you. I just can't wait. So opening up the floor.
I loved this so much. It was like, I think this lady knows me personally. I was like, oh, wow. So many good nuggets. And when I read the part on, let's see, page 31, it says, better to stay in my comfort zone than to risk failures. And then a little further down, it says, before I came aware of my mindset, I discovered this attitude in myself. It was holding me back tremendously, and I didn't even know it. I had to stop at that point because I shed a few tears, which it still makes me a little emotional. But to think how much these books and this community has helped, just the mindset thing is just a wonderful thing. And I can't wait to hear her at convention. I think it's going to be really wonderful. But a lot of fears that were in me before are not as much. I mean, I still have some, which working through, but yeah, definitely a wonderful, wonderful book.
Man, what a way to start. Woo. All right. Um, so I at the beginning, I think this is in the introduction when she talks about the successful women and unsuccessful women. Down the second to the last one where it said for successful women, a habit of saying no to good opportunities in favor of purposeful ones. That one made me kind of stop and think about it, because there's a lot of good opportunities in the world, but not purposeful ones. And to try and get to like the mindset of thinking, this could be a good opportunity, but is there purpose with it? And I also love how she talks about the purpose is making a difference in the lives of others. A lot of people always say, like, I'm trying to find my purpose in this life. I don't think that they really think, I know I didn't think about that it was actually serving others doing it. Whether you're a mom, you're doing this business, like we are serving others every single day. Like I know that I didn't think that my life's purpose would even be serving others. I was thinking of me. I was thinking that something that it was going to do for me, not for others. It just like, yeah, that struck me. And then the question she said, how is someone's life better because she crossed my path? And like, I underlined that whole section, which is a lot of my book right now. But like, I ask myself every day, like, have I added value to somebody? But that's like that heavy, how is somebody's life better because I, have talked to them or I have done something like that. That was, the purpose of doing this. But yes, I am very excited about this book, and also the decisions that she like what you said, Chris, was, or yeah, I think Chris was you talked about the positive affirmations. Like those, we can say those to ourselves every single day, and that's right there is our positive affirmations for the day. And I know for me, positive affirmations get me through the day because I have a mind that likes to talk to herself like that Cicely did, who struggled with her weight and stuff. Like what she talked about, like that's also my head, like, and like Lisa said, this woman knows me and has written this. Like somehow she knows my life and has written this book. It was almost kind of creepy, like reading some of this, because it was like, yeah, okay, got it. But I'm very excited about continuing to go through this. So.
I appreciated the way that at the beginning she had us stop and really think about what she had said and then sign, saying that we would take that deeply to heart, because I think a lot of times we get into a book and we glean a lot of information and it's all good stuff. But unless somebody really says to stop and put that into practice and really, really internalize it, we tend to take what I can use now and put the rest away. And some of it, at least for me, gets forgotten and not used. But if I'm signing something, I definitely went back and looked over everything that she had said there so that I knew what I was signing and I could, actively put that into practice in my life. I was also struck by, you're reading this and we've heard her speak before, and she is positive and she focuses on the positive psychology, but she was struggling with something and she encouraged us to journal about it. And something that, her personality is positive and it is growth mindset, but it wasn't until she started to put that in her journal and ask herself the questions that she realized, well, there is something there that is fixed that I have to change so that it can be more growth. And I think, Chris, you and I talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago, that you feel like you're making a lot of progress, but you still really have to dig in deep to figure out what areas that mindset could be more growth focused instead of having the fixed mindset creep back in. And so I really appreciated that about what she was writing.
I loved her walking through the questions that she asked herself too. Like you were talking about, Michelle, it was so good to like see that written out and just like what goes through her head. I feel like that's something that I've struggled with, is like I want to be good at being like self-aware and asking questions and that kind of thing, but sometimes I just don't know where to start. So it was really good to see her conversation, or yeah, I guess her conversation within herself. So I really like that. The other thing I really liked in here was like towards the end of the chapter where she was talking about hope and how when you stop hoping, you start settling. And then she goes into, she says on page 43, give yourself permission to hope again, to dream a bigger dream. Successful women are confident enough to dream authentic dreams. She continues in that paragraph with what they aren't and what they are. I thought that was really good to just be like, and I think too, sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to dream, and Plexus has been huge in that way for like myself, but I think even still there's still room to dream bigger.
I love the focus on just the self-awareness that gets brought to light here. And I feel like this is one of the main reasons that we do what we do with Book Club and with team calls, but the personal growth, and we talk about it a lot, the self-awareness that it brings when you really implement personal growth into your day-to-day activity is huge. Because I was reflecting reading this like 5+ years ago when I started, talking about areas that I needed to work on back then were very different than talking about areas that I need to work on today. Back then, it was something that, like the areas of growth and the weaknesses would have been something that I would have allowed to define me as a person and what I was able to do. And now today, 5 years later, it's like it almost excites me to uncover these things and to be like, ooh, yeah, that's something. Like you talking about it, talking it through, thinking it through, and you're like, yeah, that is a stumbling block. It's almost more exciting, but because you realize it's not defining me, but it is an area that I can change, that I can work on, that I can improve on, and I can remove that so that I can take the next step forward. Like it's just a whole different point of view. And also through that, to be able to decipher, like she said, she knew herself and was able to decipher between her stuff and other people's stuff. And with what we do, it can be easy to take on the emotions or whatever, the reactions of the people that we're working with, whether they're on the products or we're prospecting them, or even if we're working with leading a team, all of those things, it's all coming at you, right? And so to be able to say, this is my stuff, this is their stuff, and that's okay. We're going to try and overcome objections, and we're going to try and turn this around. We're going to try and step over this hurdle together, but to not allow that to infiltrate internally, and that you take all that on, because then you just drag that through the rest of your business so easily. So I really liked how she pointed that out too. I think that's so important.
That's so good, Shell. I totally agree. And I was going to speak a little bit on the self-awareness too, and how I have just become so much more self-aware through all of the personal growth we've been doing too. And that is, I think, why us as top leaders just preach it, because we have experienced it and we know that what we've gone through has helped us so much. And so we want that for everybody coming up, right? And so I think that's why we're constantly talking about self-awareness, personal growth, mindset, affirmations, all of it. It really is a big deal. And page 29, I loved, she wrote, she was self-aware and she knew her new thoughts were a threat to her future success. And threat, that word to me is not a good word. Threat, and I actually looked up the definition. To threaten is a bad thing. It is like you want to inflict pain or injury or what was it, cause damage or something like that. So think about that, you guys. That is when you are not self-aware, when you are having those thoughts in your mind, that you're threatening your future success. That is bad. You don't want that on your future success. You don't want that anywhere near. You don't want to cause damage or hurt or inflict injury or whatever on your future success. So think about your thoughts and that in that light, like, oh my word, that is really damaging to me. That is really not good for my future success. And then she talks a lot about failure. And I loved what she said on 24, the top of 24. The successful woman is hopeful. She's empowered by knowledge of lessons gleaned from the failure of the previous try. She doesn't take failure personally, and she knows that failing doesn't make her a failure, right? She knows that internalizing failure is a death sentence. There's another like bad, icky word, threaten, right? Death sentence for her dreams. So why are we letting those in? Why are we even letting them remotely close to what we're thinking, right? We don't want that garbage in our minds. And failing is okay. Failure is feedback, like she said. That's how we learn and that's how we grow. So what are you telling yourself about your failures, right? When you fail, when you do something, you know, with your business or you get a no or feel like you fail or whatever, what are you saying? I always mess up. Oh my word. Typical. That's just, you know, something I would do, or, you know, the excuses come or whatever. You have got to take those thoughts captive. And I'm speaking to the choir right here, you guys. I struggle with it every day. Like Chris said, we got those positive thoughts right here and those icky death negative thoughts right here, right? So I struggle with it every day, but we've got to take them captive if we want to get over that, you know, and be successful. So I am so pumped about this book. Could not love this first whole section more. It was amazing.
I had all of that highlighted too, so but what really got me was I don't know, I have a Kindle version. I think it's page 29. It says, if your mind were an electronic billboard for the world to see, what are the thoughts they'd get to read? And it takes intention to accurately capture your thoughts. I don't know, that just really struck me because, oh man, there's a lot going on inside of here. And if people would actually see what was in there, I don't think anybody would probably talk to me very often. So it was just a really good like stop and think reminder to me. And then just something that I'd like to share here. And it's on the page 36. It has the Bible verses there. It says, like, it could be argued that God calls us to a growth mindset. And then it has the passages. And then it says, if you believe all things are possible, then you can rest assured that if you open your mind, you could find yourself growing beyond your wildest dreams. I don't know if you guys heard the Mark Schultz song, the All Things Are Possible song. But I'm going to give you a little story here. We had a custody thing with our oldest daughter, and we weren't sure if she was going to be living with us or living with
her mom or how this was all going to play out. And we left the courthouse, and on my way back, that song came on the radio. It was the first time I'd ever heard it. It was the only time I have actually ever like heard that song in the car. And within a week, we had a phone call that she was going to be staying with us permanently, forever. So, and full time. And it just kind of, when I read that again popped into my head. And if you've read any of my posts like recently, we have some hard stuff going on right now. Sorry. But I just made a note in my book here that says, he gave you the promise once, and by speaking directly to your soul, he never changes his thoughts towards you. And if he promised it once, he still promises it today. So I just want to remind you guys all that all things are possible through him, because, there's just so much going on, and there's so much in the world, and we might not always, or, we have our own negative thoughts, right? And it truly is just a matter of saying, hey, let's switch that. And I caught myself just the other day doing it with my kids, and I started going negative, and I'm like, nope, don't do it. Just switch it around and make it good, and it just, just feeling that come back to me to say, hey, let's go to the positive instead. It's really kind of just lifted my spirits a lot. So even just making the small, simple changes of that can change your mindset and your attitude.
Thank you, Emily. That was amazing. So Sal basically said everything I was going to say a little bit ago. But Emily, as you were talking, so what I was going to say before Sal talked was talking a little bit about our thoughts, and it being, the predictor of success, it says on page 44, the third bullet point there. In career fields such as teaching, sales, litigation, and public relations, we're in sales, optimism is a predictor of success. If you look at the people who are successful at this company, it is the people who are emotionally mature, number one, who are able, they struggle just like all of us, but they are able to hold those thoughts captive, be mature about it, switch it, and that's the predictor of success. But Emily, what I was going to say is, as you were talking, you implemented that with your family. So that is a testament of what we learn and grow through here too, with not just our businesses, but being a successful parent, taking what we're learning about all these things and applying them to every area of life. It doesn't have to be just successful in our business, because and I know this, I'm using this term success kind of loosely now, but if we're a successful parent or a successful spouse or friend, then that's going to empower us as a whole person in our everyday life, all day, every day. And that's what people are going to be attracted to. That will help grow our business. That will help us thrive and not just survive. And so it's really just applying what we learn here in every little facet of life. When we're having a bad day with our business because we've been turned down 5 times, yeah, we can take that practice of changing our thoughts, but we have to do that all the time, right? And I just, I love that. One other thing that really hit me was on page 25, the last sentence of the paragraph right before the learning to fail forward paragraph, or the last sentence. The sooner you start paying attention to what you say to yourself about your life, your circumstances, and yes, your failures, the sooner you will break through to the next level.
Boom. So, yeah, right there.
Okay, on page 26, it says, I have never quit before. That was Meredith. And, but the pivotal moment for me was when I began to doubt myself. And then Meredith had self-sabotaging thoughts. And it says that a critical key to success for women, successful women, is to believe in themselves. They have authentic confidence that buoys them in the face of challenges and opportunities. Without that confidence, Meredith would lack the fuel to reach her goals. Well, so I'm struggling with something right now. Chris and I talked about this today, and I want to do messenger events, and I know I can do it, but I don't know. I feel this is how I feel. The analogy of when my mother-in-law was living, she had Parkinson's so bad, and she would sit there like her feet would shake, and she would try and move her foot forward, and it just shook. Finally, she moved it forward a little bit. Well, that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm just in that shaking stage, and I know I can do it. I just have to have the confidence to do it one time. And once I do it, I know it will be easy, but I'm just not pulling the trigger there. And so I could use some prayers on that. But I know that our confidence fuels us. And, you know, sometimes it just takes doing it once. And then it's like, okay, that was easy. But until you do it that once, you can let that play weird games in your mind. So
I related a lot to Meredith's story also. Meredith's story happens like over and over to me from like my job at like 21 up until every job I had before the pandemic. And every job I ever left were a lot of, I didn't pack up in the middle of the night and move across the country or anything, but most every job I left was because of some type of, you know, it was overlooked because of my age or because I was a woman or got dumped on and didn't get promoted, you know, something like that was always going on. So it was a really good reminder for me that there's no amount of no's or people quitting that will ever weigh on me the way those decisions did. That brought me to going, I don't ever want to work for somebody ever again, because if I work for myself, I'm in charge of all of that. I don't ever get dumped on. I don't ever, you know, like the things that happen in this business are so much easier for me to let roll off because they're not about me, as opposed to these roles that I'd applied for, trained for, went to college for, did really well and got taken for granted. That was a lot harder to take than people that just don't know what they don't know. So for me, so far, this book has been a good reminder of I've already been failing forward for like 25 years. Like I've got this, like there's nothing that could happen in this business that I think could really shake me too much, because I think having just weird stuff happen over and over in my earlier jobs, I wouldn't even say careers, but earlier jobs that just, I think they just prepared me for failing forwards, just kind of how I roll.
I love all of these perspectives and the different things that everybody got from this chapter. I mean, oh, it's so good. It's 9:07 and yeah, I don't want to cut anybody off. But if you have something to share. Nobody? Well, I'm just so excited for the chapters to come. I'm going to actually read this all over again on my way to Nashville because I want to like read it and then re-highlight it in an actual book. And yeah, so I'm so excited to do this with you guys. Man, God is already moving. I feel like through so much of this, and there's always more growth, right? Always more growth. And there's so much beauty in that. So many things. I wrote a lot of other things down, like imposter syndrome. We didn't even talk about that. I was like, ooh. I see some nodding. Just that was a biggie too. I was looking through that, and something I know I've grown through and have had to grow through, and mostly because Sally like slaps my patties when I say bad things about myself. But I just want you guys to know in that, just to wrap it up, I think a lot of times we try to, we want to be humble and we want to give glory to the right place, right? And I know that's something that I've always struggled with in my life. But I also know that God is doing beautiful things through each and every one of you. No matter where you are in this journey, you have all succeeded in so many beautiful ways, and there's so much more to come. And that's just what we are doing here, to like, we're here and we're growing, and we need to recognize that we're not imposters. Okay. We are daughters and sons of the King. So God has us here for a reason. And our success is because we've worked hard at this. Each and every one of you here has done hard things by stepping out in faith with this business that we have. And you're doing hard things every day. And sometimes those hard things do get easier. They do. And sometimes there's going to be new hard things that you have to step out to do. But when you take action and you do those things, then you are going to grow in your confidence. And that's not imposter. That's real. That is who you are. And that's who God is creating you to be. So be confident in that, and don't think that you don't deserve this or deserve to dream big and to have hope for huge things to happen to you, because you're already here and you're already doing so much. So that's not an imposter. That's real. All right. So just want to close with that, you guys. And so excited to see so many of you next week. And yeah, we'll skip book club next week, of course, because we'll be gathering with thousands of other people. And I'll learn in some really amazing things together. And then we'll bring it back the week after. So thanks for jumping on tonight, you guys. It's good to see you all.